Hey everybody, we're back with another cold hardy citrus taste test. And today's video we have two different citrandarins, as well as we're going to be comparing to one of the other citrandarins that we reviewed previously alongside the Changsha mandarin, and this is the US-852. But in front of us here we have the Bishop citrandarin as well as the US-1279. Now these citrandarins are interesting because the Bishop here on the left is actually a zygotic seedling of the US-852 citrandarin. So it is essentially another generation apart from the original cross here, and it supposedly, and I've seen pictures of it, it has double flowers. So it has very unique blooming, which makes this a very attractive ornamental tree. But I've also heard that the fruit is distinguishably better than the US-852, be it more mandarin taste, sweeter, whatever the case is, it's rated more highly. And we can also tell based on the flowers that it's not the same variety. You could also see the fruit here do look a little bit different, surprisingly. I didn't think they'd look this different. And of course, size-wise, that could just be the specific fruit I have. You know, if these were from the same equally mature tree, they could be the same size. But it is interesting to see some differences already, kind of like a little more profound, like nipple at the bottom there, and a little more texture, and kind of like these little folds and wrinkles towards the stem. And again, I don't know if that's this specific fruit or not, but so far it is looking a little bit different. Now for the US-1279, I believe this is also a Changsha mandarin and a trifoliate orange cross. And the cool thing about this one is it produces 100% zygotic seeds. So even if this is not the greatest citrandarin in the world, it has a lot of breeding potential. And even just in terms of selecting seeds from this one, you will get a lot of variation, pretty much maximal variation between the seedlings, which can also be very valuable. So we will be saving the seeds to both of these. Bishop is apparently more true from seed, but both of these have been crossed already. They were cross-pollinated before the fruit set. And yeah, big thanks to Mel from Pennsylvania again for providing these fruit. And he's the one who cross-pollinated the flowers and got these cool fruit here. So I'm excited for both the fruit and the seeds that will grow from these, potentially more varieties to add to our trial rows. But first thing we can get into is the size of these fruits. And both of these are pretty small citrandarins here, pretty small citrus fruit in general. I think I've seen some kumquats that rival the US-1279 here, which is coming in at 33.5 grams. Yep, so I'll put that down, and that is of course a small fruit. And the Bishop here, coming in at 58 grams. So at least this particular fruit is substantially smaller than the US-852s that we've seen. So now, and these are both very attractive orange-looking fruit, if I must say. I mean, if anyone saw this, they'd just assume it's a normal mandarin, and that this one's a very tiny normal mandarin. But let's get a little zest here. We'll kind of sniff these out, see what kind of notes we're getting, and then taste that zest as well. So we'll start with the Bishop here. And this particular, I should give credit where it's due, this particular seedling was discovered by Alan Bishop, and he's also planning on providing us a fruit. I believe he's from either South Carolina or Georgia, I think South Carolina. He's going to be providing us another fruit to compare to this one to see if they taste different grown in the north or the south, basically. And he also has a Citramello, similar case to this, where it's a seedling of Swingle that tastes improved. And, you know, that's right up my alley, so we're certainly going to be comparing that in the future, but just very cool that he found and kind of raised this seedling here. But we'll smell it now. And you know, it does smell different than US-852. Maybe milder. It's almost like a, similar to a navel orange, but milder in smell. Not bad at all, though. I think I smell less trifoliate. I'm going to taste it, and then I'm going to compare to scratching this. The zest is still a bit bitter. It's at least similar to US-852, so probably like a low or medium in that range. Definitely not a super high quality zest, but you know, it could be decent if you're using this as like a marmalade fruit. I just want to compare the smells quick before I get the 1279. Oh yeah, it does smell substantially different. Interesting. Okay. So it's hard to describe the exact difference there. But you almost get a little more of an off smell with the US-852, but it's hard to describe. Maybe something that's a little more piney in the US-852. Hard to say exactly, but let's get this 1279 here. Let me get that zest off. Okay. And it is quite oily and juicy in the peel, wow. I don't know if you could see all that going on there. But it actually made quite a mess. So it has a much oilier rinds than Bishop or US-852. Ooh, that smells pretty good. That smells better than you'd expect from a trifoliate hybrid. Interesting. Okay, so there's something, it's not exactly like a true citrus, but this is a lot closer than other citrandarins that I've scratched. Wow, that has a very unique fragrance. US-1279 basically smells, it has the mandarin smell, but it also has like a soap smell. So if you made a mandarin scented like shampoo or soap, that's what this would smell like. It's like a very clean mandarin smell. Yeah, that's exactly what that smells like. That smells like something you'd use in like a body wash. I mean, it's quite nice. It's a little strange for a fruit, but it's a nice smell. And very wet zest there. Interesting though. The zest also is pretty acceptable. Slight bitterness, but it's a little better than the Bishop. Maybe by like 1.5 points or so. Because you do still get some bitterness at the finish, but it does have a more pleasant taste. But both rinds are still bitter at the end of the day. Alright, so I'll just get that wiped off there. Alright, so I'm really curious to see now the insides of these fruits, so we're going to take a look now and get a nice cross section there. Alright, got a good bit of juice coming out. And there's your inside of the Bishop. Has a good smell, similar to US-852. Where it's almost like that lemony mandarin smell. Kind of a mix of the two, little herbal notes, things like that. But actually quite an attractive fruit. It might be a little darker on the inside. I'm going to slice open the 852 to compare as well, but let's get the 1279 cut open. Just amazes me how like oily this one is. Oh wow. And there's the inside of 1279, and you know, that actually kind of reminds me of 942 on the inside. Oh yeah, it has such a prominent orange smell. Yeah, I quite like the smell of this one. It's very interesting. I do want to test too in terms of, well, you know what, let's cut the 852, and then I will test these in terms of peelability, which I imagine is going to be equal to or less than the 852 here, which isn't much. Alright, and there's kind of our reference fruit for the bishop here, which, I don't know if you can pick that up. They do look different on the inside. Let's see how much we can get this to focus. So hopefully you guys can see that the vesicles are smaller in the bishop and enlarged with the US-852. It does seem like bishop is less seedy too, or at least the seeds are smaller, which could play into it, but that could also be the fruit size too. But it has maybe a little more orange color going on in both the rinds and the flesh. Hope I'm not losing focus there. There we go. But the color is slightly different. The vesicles are slightly different. It's quite a subtle difference, but you can tell that they're different fruit, which is interesting because online there's not a whole lot of information about bishop. There's more than there is about some of these fruits, but from what I could tell online, I couldn't distinguish them that much. But if you see them here in person, and you could see even here maybe the difference in those fruit, it's never as easy to tell through video as it is in person, but it's basically more orange, and the inside, I will say, does look more citrusy. So if this also tastes better, then that would kind of make sense. From what I've heard too, bishop seems to be hardy to around like the low single digits. So I don't know if it's as hardy or equally hardy to US-852. I think 852 can take slightly lower temperatures, but very interesting to see that it looks more like a conventional citrus. That's very interesting there. But cool that we have all that. Let's just try breaking some of that peel away. And you know what? It's not impossible on bishop there. It's it would be a little tricky, a little messy, but not impossible. I'd say like somewhat at best, somewhat peelable. And for a little 1279 here, oof, yeah, that's one of those ones where it's like almost impossible. Where you could, but it's going to be very difficult to get a good peel on that. But it helps that's like a little thicker, so it's a little easier to separate than, say, like a trifoliate orange or something. In terms of the seeds, though, neither of them appear incredibly seedy. I mean, bishop looks moderate, but less than 852. And 1279 looks comparable to 942, which is, it has like some seeds, but not many, you know. On the lower side for sure. You could probably count them on both hands, but we'll see what else is hiding beneath the surface there. But I think we're ready to officially take a slice of this and get a taste going. I'm going to be careful not to, I don't want to slice any seeds here. Try and spare what I can. All right. So there's some slices of bishop. All right. I think I cut one seed that probably wasn't going to germinate anyway. But interesting to see those slices. I'm going to get these all on the board actually and compare them as well, because I don't know if you're going to see as well as I can, but that looks very orange actually, like surprisingly orange. Just get a slice of this. Perfect, got one of those. Alright, so we'll put that up in that corner. I want to keep these seeds separate as best as I can. Okay. So actually I really like how the slices look on both of these so far. If we get a US-852 to compare, which by the way, we're saving tons of seeds of these because if Bishop ends up being good, it's very promising for what you can accomplish with 852, but 852 being highly zygotic makes this a really good variety for selecting new strains from, because so many of them are going to be different. Alright, so keep in mind that top there is just our reference. That's our US-852, and there's our Bishop down there. So you might be able to see those differences. I certainly can. It's a shade more orange, and again you get a little more texture going on. It might even be a little less juicy. I'd say that's only like moderate at best. Moderately juicy. 1279 looks similar, but maybe a touch more. So a little bit more juicy than the Bishop, but neither of them were, you know, dripping out tons of juice, but they did a little bit, so not dry fruit by any means. So, okay, let's take a bite of Bishop. We'll see how this one is. That's not bad so far. Now let me try it next to US-852. Yep, there's a difference. Wow. I didn't think there was at first, but now I know that's an improvement on US-852. Wow. That's pretty incredible. And it's in the appearance too. Again, I don't know how well you can see, but there's more orange going on there. It's like it has that same lemon orange thing going on. More orange than lemon, especially in this case. It does have more orange flavor on top of visually being more orange. Let me just get a little water and take one more bite. So far, I'm actually pretty surprised. This is kind of like when I tried Poncerus Plus, and I wasn't sure how much of a difference it really made. That's kind of like this, where I was like, is it really going to be that different from 852? I really wasn't sure, and so far the answer is definitely yes. You know what? It's quite enjoyable. It has, just to get the flavor down, less herbal than US-852. So it still has that slight herbal element that distinguishes it from like a normal mandarin. There is something slightly different in there, but otherwise it's still that orange and lemon flavor, but it is moderately sweet. It is surprising, actually. You get enough sweetness in there, plus the like extra orange flavor as compared to the US-852, where it actually makes it quite enjoyable. I mean, for its hardiness, this would be an excellent, excellent orange. Yeah, and this is one of those where, you know, I'm fairly conditioned to hardy citrus, and I can enjoy these a little more than someone who isn't. However, there's still some where I don't want to keep going back for more, and that's not the case with this. I want to have another slice, because I actually enjoyed it. Partly because I'm intrigued, but partly because it's actually pretty good. Yeah, I don't know what to compare that to. It's quite unique. I mean, you could almost say you get something vaguely reminiscent of like calamondin in there, or like orange quad or something. Yeah, something vaguely reminiscent of those, but you know what? Bishop is really good. It makes me reconsider if I should have planted so many US-852 trees, but in terms of being a seed source, US-852 is still great. Because again, Bishop grows more true from seed, but in terms of a fruit for eating and juicing quality, this is easily ahead of US-852. Wow. It's not overly sour either, because if I bite into US-852, it's like slightly less sour. -1 of US-852. You know, it's more along the lines of like being like tart. I wouldn't call it like a sour fruit. If I just get like a little there. Wow. That orange flavor is really surprising. Again, it's not immune to having off flavors. There is still some. You know, this is still, if someone tried this, they'd still think it's like an orange, but a little weirder. But it's really good, like on a relative basis. If we're considering what it is and comparing it to other citrandarins, this is probably one of the best I've had. It may rival or beat US-942, which was the other best citrandarin I've had. But that's really good. Okay, bitterness, very, very slight. I don't think it's more than a US-852 by any means. If anything, it might be slightly less. Yeah, probably slightly less. A lot of these you're seeing, I'm just kind of referencing US-852 because we already have the scores for it. So I know, at least relatively speaking, if it's more or less than the US-852, which I'm trying now again too. Trifoliate influence is pretty low on this one. I'd rank this one at the lowest because it looks a lot more like a normal orange. It tastes, you know, less strange. You know, it has less unexplainable flavors. It still has some, but that's probably the only little bit there. Otherwise, this is, you know, this has very little trifoliate influence on the flavor, but edibility is pretty high. I gotta say, even if someone didn't like the taste of this fresh, US-852 already made a pretty decent citrus aid, where you can make like a nice orange juice or orange aid out of it. But that one would probably make an even better one. So we'll kind of get, I mean, again, that aroma is pretty orangey, forgetfully. Like floral, orangey, things like that. Not so pine dominant. And I gotta write down here too that this one was very like orangey and almost like soapy. But I'm excited to try 1279 now. I hope the bar wasn't raised too high. Just gonna take another sip of water. But let's see now. So now we got US-1279. That's a very different flavor experience. I don't know how to describe that flavor. What was that? This one also has a prominent orange taste, but like in a different way. Is it similar to US-852 kind of? Might be more similar to 852. Okay, there's something different in there. It's like another type of fruit, maybe. I don't know if it kind of reminds me of like pineapple or goldenberry, which can also have those kind of types of flavors. I'm gonna have to get some more of this one because that's a hard to distinguish flavor. It's not bad so far, I could say that. This isn't a repulsive fruit. And 1279, to my knowledge, is quite a bit less hardy than Bishop or US-852. And this one I think is out of seeds, so we can just get some good tastes out of this. But I have to really think about this one because I'm not sure. Yep, that's very familiar in there. Wow, what is that? I have to think. I might just have one more slice. This is pretty funny here. This is one of the first times where I've had such a recognizable flavor like that, and I can't put my finger on it. It is maybe goldenberry. No, mango. This has a mango taste in it. That's what it is. I knew it was something tropical. It's like mango meets orange. That's pretty cool. That is one of the most tropical tasting hardy citrus I've had. That would make a really interesting juice. I mean, after I use the juice for, if I can get a pH reading on it, I might not be able to get the full meter test on these because I don't think I have enough juice. I'm going to make a small little citrus aid with that. I might even make it on camera because that's surprising. I have never had that before. So it's like orange and mango. And it is tart. So it's like a tart orange and mango taste. Not a whole lot of off flavors otherwise. Like a slight herbal taste to it. But predominantly orange and mango. But it is sour. I would say it's like quite sour. More sour than the Bishop. The Bishop is sweeter and better for eating at a hand. Whereas this is definitely more a processing fruit in terms of the sourness. However, for processing it, it brings some very unique flavors to the table. Wow. I might have to grow this one out. And I would recommend too, I forget if this one, if the CCPP has budwood of this one, which they're a little expensive, but the budwood is good from my experience. I might graft this one out because that is very, very unique. I have to have other people try this because I've never tried a citrus fruit and thought mango before. Wow. In terms of sweetness in there, yeah, there's a bit of sweetness. A bit. So more than a little. If that helps at all. It's not like where I just get a little bit. There's probably a teeny bit more than that. But it's not a super sweet fruit by any means. It's definitely more sour. Bitterness, I don't think I got much. Yeah, maybe comparable to US-852 or Bishop. Yeah, maybe similar to US-852. There's not a whole lot there. US-852, I believe, doesn't even rank high in terms of bitterness. Trifoliate influence, I'd also say, is pretty low here. But clearly, and this isn't the first time this has happened, trifoliate orange, while it can give a lot of weird off flavors to things, you know, they can taste piney, but you also get flavors like with US-119, which I believe is like a Sukari orange, some sort of sweet orange, and like a Dunstan Citramello. It's an interesting cross, but it's reported to have a pineapple taste to it, which is very, very unique. And I wonder if this is something similar going on here, where we have tropical flavors being created by the trifoliate orange. I've heard this on more than one accounts. So, you know, you get like guava, pineapple, and now mango, so kind of interesting. Not a bad thing to have or play around with, at least I think. I think that's, for an off flavor, I think that's more desirable. Batability, I'd also say, is pretty high on this one. Like, you could make a good juice out of that. Like, it's not as high, or, whoops, wrong way. It's not as high as Bishop. You know, Bishop's more edible out of hands, but, you know, in terms of using it, things like that, it's really not bad. That's a very interesting fruit. So I'd say juice, that would make a really cool, like, preserve, too. Like, if you made a marmalade out of this fruit, especially since the rind is pretty flavorful, too. Again, slightly soapy, so that could be a little weird, but the flavor in the rind, plus the tropical flavor inside, that would be really interesting. As for this, I'd wager to say, I might have to take one more bite of Bishop here. I'd wager to say it's good for fresh eating. Yeah, I'd say so. If you can eat like calamondins or even some of the tartar kumquats, this isn't bad at all. This might even be less sour than some Nagami kumquats I've had. So Bishop, I'll actually give it the fresh eating pass. Otherwise, though, it's similar. Juice and marmalade are all things you can use that for. This would probably even be good in like an ice cream for like an orange creamsicle type of thing. I'm sure you could do a lot with that, actually. The rind is less useful than the flesh itself, but the flesh itself is surprisingly good. Yeah, I'm really noticing that difference now. You could probably see that now, too. I feel like the camera's capturing the color a little better right now. That orange and that yellow. It just looks more orangey, so go figure it tastes more orangey, too. It's just amazing the differences you can see in just seedlings of the same plant, you know? If you could see this plant probably, and I mean, I have both of these out in the fields, and to the untrained eye, they look exactly the same. There are slight differences, but even then that could be chalked up to normal variation in the leaves and the overall structure. Otherwise, they're almost indistinguishable. US-1279 does look a bit different, though. So wow, this is a positive taste test. I think we found two of my new favorite Citrandarins, which I didn't think was going to be the outcome here. I knew Citrandarins were some of the better hardy citrus, but I didn't think these would be particularly better than what I've tried already. So I'm curious to see now the bricks on these. The bricks on the Bishop might explain some things here. I'm curious because it does taste fairly sweet out of hand. Yeah, it might just be lower acid though, because it's reading like a 10.5, which is pretty common reading for these. So it's not particularly higher than anything. So let's get that wiped off and then we'll do 1279 here. Some 1279 juice. Oh my gosh. Alright, all the seeds are coming out. Got a good bit of juice there. Juices look pretty similar between these. Alright, let's see. 12.5. So that's actually reading pretty high on the bricks there, at least compared to other things. So 12.5 on US-1279, and then we'll just get a quick pH test, and we're pretty set with these fruit here. I hope you guys are finding this interesting. You know, I'm not sure the exact hardiness of 1279, but I think we can get away with it easily here in our zone 8A / maybe 7B. I think it might just do fine here, so this could be like a decent warm zone 7 and up type of tree. I have to ask Mel if this has survived outdoors in zone 6 with damage. I do believe he said that Bishop Citrandarin has survived, but below 2 degrees or around 2 degrees it starts seeing damage, but it comes back from it every year. Oh, whoopsie. But I gotta say, both these fruit are good enough where you could probably passively protect them in a really cold zone. Like, say you're in a 6A or something like that, and you wanted to grow these, you know, if you gave them just a little bit of protection, you might be able to get away with them, and they'd be a lot better than some of your other in-ground options, which might not even be much. Besides trifoliate orange, really, and any variations of it. Okay, so we got Bishop and 1279, both reading pretty similarly there. I want to say they're coming in, yeah, around a 3. I think these are both going to be around a 3 there. They could be, I mean, oftentimes they're a little less than that, but we'll say less than or equal to 3 on both accounts there. So, other than that, I think we got a pretty comprehensive look at these. And this is one of those ones where you could tell just by the pile of orange peels at the top here. I actually enjoyed these quite a lot. So I might be making some changes to next year. I think I'm going to plan on grafting this one out. I wasn't sure until tasting it, and its lack of hardiness, at least relative to a zone 6, didn't give me much promise, but thinking about it, I think it's something I can get away with here, and the flavor is compelling enough where I want to grow this, you know, and some of you might want to grow it just based on this testimony here. Having mango flavor in a fruit is absolutely unique. And Bishop Citrandarin is probably, I have to look back and compare to some of the others, but it's probably the closest to eating out of hand out of any 50-50 hybrid that I've looked at so far. I'm trying to think if there's any I'm missing. Yeah, like Dunstan and some of the Citramellos are obviously comparable to a grapefruit fresh. A little bit more sour, but this one actually has some real sweetness to work with here. So that's the big difference. But let's get you those scores up here on the screen so you can see how these compare. I'm curious too how much higher Bishop will rank than US 852, because I think 852 is pretty middle of the pack, might have been around 50 or so for its score on our score sheet. So I'd imagine this may push closer to 60. I don't know, we'll see. It is smaller too, and still has a decent amount of seeds, things like that. So we gotta take everything into account with these fruit. But in terms of my personal enjoyment, regardless of how these fruit rank, I'd still recommend both of these. You know, even for 1279, I'm curious to see where that ranks too. But I think both of these will do good enough, and I can definitely recommend them if they are hardy in your zone, and you could even try them out if they're a bit marginal with a good microclimate or some protection. But very cool to see that Bishop Citrandarin is actually improved. It's confirmed, it's out there. I tasted them side by side at relatively equal stages of ripeness. 852 tends to taste pretty similar once it reaches a certain point. And visually we could see the difference too. So we've seen the double flowers, we've seen the difference in color, difference in structure, and it has a sweeter, more orangey taste when you're eating it fresh. So very cool to see that difference. Thank you again to Mel and really everyone else who has provided fruit to help us accomplish these reviews. I'm trying to grow out these plants as quick as I can, both for ourselves and for you guys, but I can only keep up so much, so it's helpful to have access to mature fruits when I can get them, because some of these plants are still a year or two away from reaching the point where we can sample some of our own. So I appreciate it. If any of you have unique fruit that you're looking for me to review, of course I'm always open to accepting those as well, and it would be interesting to see some more different things here. But again, we might see an improved Citramello in the future, but otherwise we're reaching the end of our cold hardy citrus reviews for the season. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch these. I really appreciate it, and I've seen a lot of growth in the channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which I'm really grateful for. So we have more content coming up, a lot related to the seedlings that we're selecting, and we kind of have some features on the website going more in depth into the breeding and selecting work that we're doing. So working really hard not only to review and cultivate varieties that already exist, but also help create and facilitate the selection of new varieties so we could keep pushing things forward, because I think fruit like these are already a great testament to how far we're coming with hardy citrus, and I think with this continued rate of progress we'll do even better as time goes on. So thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.